All right, good afternoon. Welcome to this live broadcast of our virtual meeting. This meeting includes the remote participation of members as authorized under Minnesota Statute Section 13D.021 due to the declared local health pandemic. For the record, my name is Ellen McVeigh and I am the president of the Minneapolis Civil Service Commission. I will now call this meeting to order and ask the clerk to call the roll so that we can verify the presence of a quorum.
Commissioner McVeigh.
Present.
Commissioner Falk.
Present.
Commissioner Wheeler. Not present.
All right, thank you. With that, we will proceed to our agenda, a copy of which was posted for public access to the city's legislative information management system, which is available at lims.minneapolismn.gov. Excuse me. All right, the first item on the agenda is acceptance of the minutes from the April 27th meeting 2021. And again, those were posted on the website. Could I get a motion to approve the minutes?
I motion to approve.
All right, and I will second, excuse me, as there are just two of us present out of the three commissioners. So could the clerk call the roll, please?
Yes. Commissioner Falk.
Yes.
And Commissioner McVeigh.
I vote to approve also.
2 yeas.
All right, so that the minutes from the April 27th meeting are approved. And then we have item number 1 under policy and administration, introduction of our newly appointed Commissioner Candace Falk, who is replacing Christine Seward as of May 7th, 2021. Commissioner Falk comes with, excuse me, a couple of decades of experience in human resources management with hands-on personnel management experience in both the nonprofit and for-profit sectors. She's eager to have experience in the public sector as well. She has had classes on human resources practices and participated in roundtables through the Minnesota Council of Nonprofits. And we're very, very delighted to have Commissioner Falk with us. Welcome.
Well, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, good. All right. Item number 2, excuse me, under the new business policy administration, the HR department has come to talk with the commission about the current classification processes surrounding the Cressup system. We talked about this a little bit ago. It's I think a confusing system, at least for me, and I've been on the commission for quite a while, but we thought that it would be helpful to have Brenda Miller come and talk through for Commissioner Falk's benefit, but also for mine, and the kind of the overview of the Cressup system, which governs classification in the city of Minneapolis. Brenda?
Yep, thank you, Commissioner. I will share my screen. And we'll put this on presentation mode. So just want to make sure everybody can see the title page.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So what we're going to go through is understanding the Cressup job classification system today. So we can start with, what is a job classification system? Well, it's a multi-step process for identifying, describing, and valuing all the various work performed by the city. A classification is the smallest recognized grouping of positions having similar duties and responsibilities that are at the same general level with the same basic qualification. And Civil Service Rule 4 requires that the city maintain and administer a fair and objective system for classifying jobs. So what is Cressup? Cressup is our job classification for the city. It's a point factor system. It was developed by a consulting firm named Cressup, McCormick, and Paget, and we often refer to it as just the Cressup system. Cressup is similar to the Hay point factor system, so if you've ever encountered that, it's very similar. And by design, point factor systems are what we believe are the most objective job classification systems out there. In Cressup, points are assigned based on 6 factors, and we'll go through these factors now. So the first factor is prerequisite knowledge, and it measures the knowledge necessary to start work in the position, no matter where or how it is obtained. So it can be a combination of formal education, special study, training, and/or experience. So it's common that you'll see in our job specs or job descriptions that we use the term or equivalent. So it might be a bachelor's degree or equivalent. Generally, 1 year of experience is counted the same as 1 year of formal education. The second factor is decisions and actions, and that measures the need to apply knowledge and make independent decisions. So it's the use of independent judgment versus following procedures. For example, it's how often are they making decisions? Are there analytical or creative skills required to make typical decisions? How much influence do the decisions that job makes have on other decision makers? It also looks at the consequence of errors in decisions, as well as the variety and complexity of job duties. Factor 3, the supervisory responsibilities, simply measures the number of direct and indirect reports that report to the role. In that count, we exclude contractors, interns, and permit or temporary employees. And in order to qualify as a supervisor, they need to do most of the following: hiring and transferring, suspending, promoting, discharging, assigning, rewarding, and disciplining employees. So as we'll get to in just a minute, this is just simply a count, like I said, of the number of direct and indirect reports, but they must meet this criteria for supervision in order to qualify for the points. The fourth factor is relationships, which measures the need to meet and deal with others effectively. So it's measured by the frequency, nature, and importance of working relationships, and consideration is given to whether matters are complex or controversial. Is there a need for considerable tact, diplomacy, and persuasiveness? Is the scope of the relationship confined to within the department, or does it extend outside the department? And the importance to the organization of having those relationships and maintaining those relationships smoothly and effectively. The fifth factor is working conditions, which really measures the conditions of discomfort or personal inconvenience under which duties are performed. So here are some examples that we have in the Cressup criteria. There's a normal office environment. There's an office and field work, which requires office work, but then there's some exposure to field elements. There's exposure to hazards such as dampness, dust, dirt, confined area, animals, or chemicals. Or the last one, exposure to extremes of danger and hazard, which would include performing emergency response, such that our police officers and our fire responders do. The sixth factor is effort, and it measures the exertion of effort as shown by the amount and kind of mental and physical fatigue the work causes. So mental effort means the extent to which attention to detail is required, the strain in meeting deadlines, problem solving, analytical activities, and other mental activities. But that we also look at the physical effort that it takes to do the job. So to what extent are they lifting, carrying, holding, moving, standing, or other physical actions? So you can have a combination of these two things. The job can have just the mental effort. Maybe they don't have such physical requirements. Similarly, you can have physical requirements without having the mental requirements. And then you've got the combination of both, as I've said. So each factor is assigned some points based on comparing the job requirements against the Cressup criteria. And those job requirements are documented in what we call the job analysis questionnaire, which is a questionnaire that managers and employees complete and then submit it to our organization for evaluation. So generally, factors may be awarded between 0 and 100 points. And this is an example of one of the criteria for relationships. So you see it has a raw score of 5 and weighted points is 7.5, and I'll get to that in a moment. There's the scope. So we talked about this, what is the scope of the relationships, the importance of the relationship, what is the nature, the frequency of the relationship, and then this just gives kind of an overall descriptor of that level of relationships. So each factor has its own weighting. The idea was that there are certain factors that we wanted to count more than others. So we said for prerequisite knowledge, that has a factor weighting of 3 or 30% of the total value of the job. Decisions and actions, again, is a 3, again, representing 30% of the total score. Supervisory responsibilities are weighted 1, so that amounts to 10% of the overall score. Relationships are 1.5 or 15%. Working conditions are half or 5%. And effort is a 1 or 10%. So you can see the total factor weight is 10, and the total value all comes to 100%. So the raw points, so in our previous example here, the raw points 5 are weighted by the factor weight. So that was relationships. So it's 1.5, which is how we came to that 7.5 weighted points that you saw on the Cressup criteria. Then the weighted to points determine the grade. So this is our whole schedule. So we've got grades between 1 and 18. And then there's a range of points you can see within each grade. Yeah, I forgot what I was going to say there. So then the weighted points determine pay. So each range in a salary schedule is associated with points. So this is an example of one of our salary schedules. So you can see the job title is here, the points are here, the class grade, and that means that grade that we were just looking at, and then the salary structure that's associated with that job and those points. So you'll notice that jobs that have the same points have the same salary structure. And similarly, you can have jobs that are close in points that also have the same salary structure. It depends on the salary schedule we're looking at. Generally, those within 15 points of each other will have the same salary schedule. So you'll notice that the ADA language access specialist has 378 points, but it starts at 58,940. Similarly, the 911 training and quality specialist has 365 points, so a little bit less, but also has the schedule of 58,940. There are some situations where there isn't this consistency that we like to see. So there are some instances where jobs that have the same points might have a different salary schedule. And I haven't been able to speak with Pam Nelms to get the history on that, but from what I've examined, I believe that the reason that might happen is because market data would indicate that the pay range would be higher than what we would normally set it out to be. So, what is the alternative to a job? This job classification process. The alternative is market pricing, and it's an approach that many organizations use to classify and compensate their jobs. Market data is generally provided by other organizations through third-party vendors who scrub and then anonymize the data. And then the market data is used to assign jobs to salary schedules. The downfall of using market data entirely is that it relies on a system that perpetuates the inequities that are already in the market. So traditionally, women's work is paid less than traditionally men's work, although that's getting better. But you'll still find that difference. And pay decisions are made based on a manager's review of an employee's performance and the market data in the form of salary schedules. So there's a subjective review of the performance, which opens it up for possible discrimination. And then again, they're using the market data, which has some inherent inequities already built into it, to make their pay decisions. So this is an approach that some organizations are taking, but for the reasons that I mentioned, I wouldn't recommend that we go there, I guess. So what is our classification process? So today, an employee or the manager completes a job analysis questionnaire, and that depends. So if the employee believes that their job has changed more than 40%, they can complete a job analysis questionnaire and submit it. Similarly, a manager may complete a job analysis questionnaire if they have a new job or they're concerned about the whole job class, and they want to have that reviewed. They then submit the completed JAQ to classifications via a ticket in City Life. So we have a ticketing system. I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with it, but it's pretty slick, and it notifies us when there's a ticket open that we need to pay attention to. So classification receives the ticket and they review the job analysis questionnaire, and then classification conducts meetings with the employee and the manager to ask questions and to better understand the job. Classification then assigns the points based on what they're seeing in the job analysis questionnaire as compared to the Cressup criteria, and then they write up a classification report. Classification then sends that report to the manager and HR for review. Now I'll stop here and just say we're looking at our process for communicating back the results of a classification. To what you're seeing today is our current process. However, when our classification analyst ends her detail assignment and comes back to classifications, we'll be taking a look at this. But for now, this is what we do. So we send it to the manager and the HR for review. We're just trying to get their general opinion about it. Do they feel like we've really missed the mark? And then we might have discussion around what we heard versus what the manager is seeing. Other times it might be just that the manager has an idea of what they thought the job would be, and it doesn't quite score out that high. And that's just the way that it is because of the Cressup criteria. Once we get agreement from the manager and the HR manager that the assigned grade and points are okay, excuse me, compensation sends a letter of agreement to the union to sign for the creation of the job. And then the union signs and returns the LOA, although in our experience that also can take a while. So I have one that's been waiting over 3 weeks for approval. I've had as long as several months to get approval from the union. So this is an area we'd like to improve upon. I'm not quite sure what we can do about it, but we're working on it. Once we get that approval through the LOA, then compensation or classification notifies the manager that it's been approved, and the manager communicates the results to the employee. Compensation then works with our HRIS team to update the comment system with the new job, if a new job needs to be created, and with the new salary for employees that are in that job that maybe have now been promoted. Compensation also submits the updated salary schedules to be posted online. So compensation adds the job to the salary schedule and then turns it over to labor relations to have them post the schedule on the web. And then classification adds or updates the job spec in NeoGov. So that's our whole process and kind of an overview of Cressup. I know I went through that pretty quickly, so I just want to see if there are any questions.
Commissioner Falk, do you have any questions?
I feel like maybe I have a lot swirling. But no, thank you so much, Brenda. That's really a great overview of how that works. When was the Cressup initially put into place? Do you know
I
that?
believe it was 1962, so it's been around for quite a while. The nice thing about point factor systems is that there really isn't much of a need to change them over the years, even as the jobs change. It can reflect the differences in the jobs even now, similar to it did in 1962.
I have a question along that line, Brenda, if you don't mind. Is the weighting of the points consistent? Then that's been consistent since 1962, or has the weighting changed at all over that time?
My understanding is that the weighting has been the same, although I wasn't able to find a whole lot about the history of the Cressup. I have some information about kind of the process they used for assigning job points in the very beginning in 1962. There's not a whole lot about the Cressup system in 1962.
Okay.
So I can't tell whether the weightings have changed or not.
And the weighting is the Cressup weighting. It isn't that the city has determined that the weighting will be this way for jobs within the city using the Cressup system. Is that correct?
Yep, that's my understanding. That
that's what I thought too, but I was never clear on that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The other thing is, can you talk just a little bit about the kind of how I mean, I think a lot of times when classification appeals come to the commission, the expressed concern from the employee is that the analysis of the job is subjective on the part of classification staff as opposed to some type of objective rating. Can you talk about how classification staff approaches that issue?
Yeah, well, we've got the criteria that through the Cressup system that does a really good job of level setting. It is definitely open to interpretation. However, I don't feel like there's enough, I guess, wiggle room in the criteria to make it, wholesale different if we were to reevaluate the job. But I would agree that there is some subjectivity to it.
And then is there a check that you perform to kind of if you're the analyst and you're looking at a job, is there a way to have a check on kind of the determination that you make, or is that about whether the points were properly assigned, or is that something that is the kind of gets handled during the process of having review by the union and review by the managers after the classification analysis is done?
Yeah, primarily it's that check that we do with the HR manager and the manager of the position. So they have an opportunity to review the report and let us know if they think that we've, like I said, missed the mark.
Okay.
Right now, we have an outside company that is doing our classifications, and they've actually, they have two people there, and they both rate the job independently, and then they come together and compare their results and then reconcile the results. So it's a nice check on each other. So it's that check and balance.
Oh,
so
that's
that might be something
is that a new process? I'm sorry to interrupt you. Is that a new process?
To
have the outside people do it?
Yes, we're doing that right now because Robin Howard, who is our classification analyst, is currently detailed to internal investigation. And so we don't have a classification analyst right now.
Oh, okay.
And so we've contracted with Keystone to, which is, they're pretty well-respected consulting firm in the Twin Cities. It's run by Sado Aboud. And so I don't know if either one of you have worked with consultants at all, but he's been around since I started compensation back almost 30 years ago.
Oh, okay.
So he's been around for quite a while and is well respected. But that process of having that check and balance on each other, that is new, that Keystone is doing.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that before. That is that's good.
It's certainly something that we could look into doing ours on our team. I don't know that we have necessarily the resources to do that right now.
Right.
But it would be nice to be able to do that.
Yeah. The last question I have is I guess more of a point to for Commissioner Falk's benefit. But one of the other things that comes up quite a bit in the course of appeals from classification decisions is that an employee who is appealing is saying, I don't have a big issue with the classification analysis as it's done, but I really think I should be making more money. And so in order to, and it isn't that crass, but a lot of times that's the underlying point of the appeal, and that people are trying to bump their points up so that they move up in the salary schedule. And I think one of the strengths of the Cressup system is that this kind of detailed review of the various aspects of a job make it somewhat clear. I mean, it's a little iffy when you get to the margins, but it does get to be pretty clear about what classification a job will fall into, and that if they fall into that, then as you saw on that one slide, there is a coordinated salary schedule for that position, and that employees are kind of within that, and the commission does not have any leeway or authority to deviate from that salary schedule and say, well, the job that you're in is really this classification, but because of your exemplary performance, the commission says you should be making more money. We don't have the ability to do that. So really our review was the analysis appropriate, and is the category into which this job is classified appropriate?
That's helpful. Thank you, Commissioner McVeigh.
Sure. Anything further for Brenda?
I don't think I have anything.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Brenda. That was really very helpful, and really appreciate your time.
All right, well, thank you both.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brenda.
Bye.
Okay, is there anything further to come before the commission today? All right, we have completed all the items on the agenda for this meeting, and if there's nothing further without objection, I will declare this meeting adjourned. Our next meeting is June 22nd, 2021, and we anticipate again a Zoom meeting, but if that changes, we will certainly make that clear to the public. Thank you all.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.